to The Hypnotist, the show that gives you inside access to cutting-edge hypnosis with real clients facing genuine issues. Brought to you by the hypnotherapist demanded by celebrities, CEOs, and even royalty, Adam Cox. These recordings took place live from Adam's clinic in London's world-famous Harley Street. So, get yourself comfortable and enjoy today's episode of The Hypnotist.
Hi, it's Adam here, and you're about to listen to a hypnosis session all about challenging a particular type of anxiety. And anxiety is one of those things that it actually becomes a barrier. It becomes a wall that stops you doing certain things, because if the anxiety persists, most people will avoid doing the thing. And that might be an animal, it might be a situation. This particular client had a very intense fear of thunderstorms, and that stopped them traveling to certain parts of the world or going out in the countryside at certain parts of the year. So it can become a real barrier. And this hypnosis session uses a metaphor of a prison, because there were two contributing factors to this particular client. They had a very, very intense mother that made them believe and feel certain things that restricted choices they made in their life, and they had regrets about that. But also their mother used thunderstorms as a way to control them. So you're going to hear this metaphor of a prison, and just imagine being trapped in a prison, but you have to face your fear in order to escape. And I want you to think of whatever your fear is. If you were locked inside a prison and you couldn't live your life the way you wanted to, and you had to face your fear in order to live life in the way that you want, could you do it? Because that's really the essence of this hypnosis session. So if you're interested in that, have a listen. And I know on previous introductions to sessions, I talk about a free consultation call if you're interested in working with me. And I don't actually do that anymore. I no longer offer free consultation calls. I offer paid consultation calls. But for those people that are curious about working with me and they want something free, I've actually created a webinar that explains why hypnotherapy is so effective at helping things when many other approaches, like different forms of therapy, aren't effective. So if you're interested in that, and in that webinar, I also talk about what it's like to work with me and the kind of things that hypnosis is really good for. It also gives you two different hypnosis suggestibility tests actually in the webinar. So if you're curious about that, check it out. And for all of those people that get to the end of the webinar, you'll actually get access to 10 downloads completely free. I give you a code at the end of that webinar. So if you're interested, check out the comments for that. But for now, you might get some real value of this prison metaphor to face your fears. So find a quiet, comfortable place where you won't be distracted or disturbed. Relax and enjoy the session. Take a deep breath in. And as you breathe in that slow, long, relaxing breath. And as you exhale, give permission to release. Release any feelings of stress, worry, or tension. Just allow it to leave your body in your exhale. And breathe in a wonderful feeling of courage. Breathing in courage and exhaling any fear, any worries, any heavy emotions of the past. Almost like each breath takes you deeper and deeper to that place within where sometimes just a single decision changes everything. As you breathe in and breathe out, I want you to use the power of your imagination to imagine a prison. And imagine that prison there in the landscape of Kosovo, close by to a town or a landmark you're familiar with. And just imagine this prison is on a sunny day, not even a breeze. And I want you to imagine this prison has thick stone walls, the barbed wire, the big metal gates. This prison is impenetrable. You can't get in and you can't get out unless the doors are opened. And I want you to imagine, for some reason, in this prison is your childhood family. And I want you to imagine being perhaps just 8 years, 9 years, 10 years old. And I want you to imagine that the prison is created by what you were told in your childhood. The prison isn't real. It's based on words. Who you're meant to be, what you should be doing, your duties, responsibilities, the beliefs, the prejudices, all built the walls of this prison. And even when you moved country, the prison came with you. And every now and then, you had a taste of life beyond the prison walls. Relationships and friendships. But there was a belief that you had to return to the prison. That unless you did what other people wanted you to do, you weren't allowed to venture out by yourself. And I want you to imagine there in that prison, there's a prison yard. A prison yard on a sunny day with blue skies. And just imagine relaxing, perhaps lying on a blanket under the sun. And as I count down from 10 to 1, you will imagine drifting off into a dream within a dream, a sleep within a sleep. There, on that soft blanket, in the courtyard of that prison. 10, breathing in. 9, exhaling any tension. 8, eyelids getting heavier and heavier. 7, jaw getting looser. 6, just imagine your arms feeling limp, loose and heavy like the limbs of a puppet with no strings. And 5, your internal organs all relax at the same time. Your lungs relax, heart relax, stomachs relax. And then 5 goes to 4, your gut relaxes. All feeling a wonderful feeling of relaxation as 4 becomes 3, it goes down into your legs. And 2, just imagine your legs being like jelly. No tension at all. And then 1 down to your toes, rippling up to the top of your head and down to your fingertips. Just feel pure relaxation. And I want you to imagine time goes on. In your imagination, I want you to imagine that a minute is almost like a year. Maybe you go from 8 years to 9 years. 9 years to 10 years. And I want you to think of all of those wonderful things outside of the prison walls you don't get to do. You don't pursue the career opportunities that you want beyond the prison walls. You don't choose the relationship, the life partner you want, because that's on the other side of the prison walls. The family you want, the experiences, the travel, it's all beyond the prison walls. And feel yourself getting older, hearing all of these words that make the prison walls real. Being told you're a disappointment, being compared unfavorably to other people. You do certain things, you're criticized for it. You start having your own ideas, you're humiliated for it. That's what keeps the walls real. And you are told that beyond the walls is a scary storm. And not just a storm. The anger, the actions of a god. That if you disappoint the god, you could bring harm to yourself or to others. And this child starts to believe that. And this child starts to think, maybe it's not even worth thinking about life outside the prison walls. They just have to get used to things as it is. And there are people who spend too long in a jail and they become institutionalized. They get used to that poor quality food, lights being off at a certain time, the violence, the abuse, and they treat it like normal. But that's not you. You know this isn't normal. And there is a longing for a real life beyond the prison walls, where you decide which city you live in. You decide your friends, you decide your partner. Those big life decisions, you don't need permission. You make your own decisions, good and bad. Good decisions improve your life, and bad decisions make you wiser. But they're your decisions. And feel the time going on. You're getting older in that prison. And I want you to think of all the opportunities you've missed out on. The family that you could have had, but didn't. That relationship that could have flourished, but you'll never know. The business you could have created, you never tried. Not because you weren't capable, but because you believed the walls of the prison were real. You acted as if they were true. You were brainwashed to believe. It didn't even make sense to think of life beyond the walls. And when a storm would come, you were told, this was your doing. You caused this. God is angry at you. And you believed it until you didn't. And you believed it because the emotions were real, even if the logic behind it was false. And I want you to imagine as time goes on, you spent your teenage years there in the prison. You spent your 20s there in the prison. You spent your 30s there in the prison. All those things you couldn't do beyond the prison walls. And what made it worse is you got a taste of what was possible, but never really believing that it was. Doors of opportunity opened, and you allowed them to close because you didn't feel that it was even a real possibility for someone like you. And if there's a part within that says enough is enough, if I've spent all of this time in the prison, I don't want to spend any more time here, let me know by nodding your head. But let's just say there is only one way to escape the prison. You have to face a fear. If you face the fear, you win your freedom. And if you don't face the fear, you remain. But the good news is that you can have as many attempts as you want. You can try 2, 3, 4, 5, 100 times if you desire. And you only have to face the fear once to be free. And I want you to imagine what makes the metal doors open or the big brick walls come crumbling down is to face a storm. And not just any storm. The biggest, most intense, windiest storm you've ever seen. But you win your freedom the moment you face it. And facing it means being outside, feeling the rain on your skin, the wind blowing against your body, and showing courage and defiance. That's what frees you from this prison. And I want you to imagine within the prison, you start looking for clues. Maybe you're on applications that show the upcoming weather forecast. Maybe you start looking in newspapers for what the weather looks like, or weather reports on the TV. Maybe you look for clues in the sky. Dark clouds, increased winds. And you know that change of pressure in the air when a storm is on its way. And in the past, that would have caused some anxiety. But given that now you face one storm and you win your freedom, it has a different connotation now. You are hoping that there is a storm coming. You want there to be a storm. You want the wind to start picking up, to sway the trees. You want to see that dust accumulate there in the atmosphere. You want to feel that change in pressure, that humidity. You want to see those dark clouds. And if your unconscious feels ready to face the nemesis, to set you free, that even if there's anxiety, it will not deter you. Some people believe that everything you ever desire is on the other side of fear. And I want you to think of your future now. The career you get to build, the family you get to build, the future memories you haven't had yet, wonderful experiences, a responsibility to yourself first and foremost. Because everything, every major decision is related to the possible benefits. And I want you to connect the idea that when you face this fear, a world of opportunity opens up for you. Opportunities you thought you missed then become available again. Trains that you thought you missed start being scheduled again. Doors that were closed start to open again. And if you're ready to face this storm, let me know by nodding your head. Locate the courage within you. It's there. Isn't it better to face something once than run from it forever? And when you're ready to face it, let me know by nodding your head. That's it. And I want you to imagine that large courtyard in the prison. And I want you to imagine there is a large platform that elevates you higher, exposes you to the wind and the rain. And I want you to imagine maybe you're wearing a coat, but there is no umbrella. You're there, facing it. And when the wind picks up, you smile. And when it starts to rain, you feel defiant. You call this a storm? This isn't a storm. I've experienced real storms. This is no storm, and feel it get windier. Feel the rain get harder, maybe hailstones, or imagine seeing lightning there in the distance and hearing big, heavy thunder. And I want you to imagine that for every minute it feels like a year. Imagine this storm is a year-long storm. And I want you to feel defiant, courageous, immovable. And the harder and more intense the storm gets, the closer you are to freedom. You will not be deterred. You will not back down. And I want you to imagine feeling tested. The storm gets even more intense. The rain so intense you can't even see your own hand. The wind so strong it's almost blowing you off that platform. And yet you remain strong. You refuse to back down. You face it. And when you can feel undeterred there in the face of the storm, you know how close to freedom you are. And when you feel that, let me know by nodding your head. That's it. And then you notice the wind starts to calm. The rain starts to get less intense, until eventually you see the first ray of sunshine. No more thunder, no more lightning, just clouds, but then the clouds turn to blue skies. And you might be wet and cold, but you feel victorious. You have faced your fear and got through it. And I want you to see the faces of all of those people that hoped you would back down. Maybe a parent, an uncle, a sibling. And you proved them wrong. You proved that you can do it. And then imagine seeing the walls come crumbling down of that prison and the big metal gates start to open. And now you have a choice. You could choose to remain in the rubble of the prison, or you can choose to live your life beyond it. And that life isn't certain. That life will have ups and downs, but it's your life, your decisions. And in that future, every time there's a storm, you'll smile. Because a storm used to keep you imprisoned. But from that point on, it will remind you just how free you are. Every storm represents freedom. And don't be surprised a few years from now, when there's a big storm of thunder and lightning, you choose to walk outside, to feel the rain on your skin, to hear the thunder and see the lightning. You choose to do that, to remind yourself of your freedom, to show the people around you that are looking up to you. There's nothing to be scared of here, it's just nature. And I want you to imagine that you could look back and feel regretful and resentful for all that time wasted in the prison. But instead, wouldn't you rather just live your life outside of it? There are some people that when they finally get released from a prison, they start living life as if they're still in it. Rigid routines, limited choices. That's not freedom. That's just replacing one prison for another. If the past is your prison, you can choose not to live there. You can choose to live in the present and your future. You can choose to feel that your past has made you more courageous, more defiant, more resilient. What if your past didn't break you, but make you? What if you are stronger because of your past, not weaker? What if you will take life as the wonderful opportunity it is, now that you're totally free to fully live it? So imagine life beyond the prison walls, knowing that there are people, perhaps people that you love, choosing to still live in those same limitations. But that does not have to be you. And if you feel that you're willing to face the storm in reality, to fully win your freedom of your future, let me know by nodding your head. That's it. And the next time you see a weather report of an upcoming storm, you will feel it's an opportunity. And when you face that fear even just once, any remaining limitations and fears, those walls will also start crumbling down. And as you hold that thought, it's time to return. So take a deep breath in through your nose and out through your nose. Just wiggle your fingers and wiggle your toes. Connect and calibrate into the here and the now. As I now count from 1 to 10 to awaken you. Starting to count. 1, 2, 3, waking up. 4, 5, 6, more alert. 7, 8, open your eyes, open your eyes. 9, 10, wide awake, wide awake, wide awake. Thank you so much for joining me on today's episode of The Hypnotist. If you've enjoyed this episode or got some value from it, please give it a 5-star rating and review. And maybe you know someone that would also benefit from this particular episode, in which case share the episode with them so they can also get the benefit too. And if you would like to listen to this episode where it's just the hypnosis, so no intro, no outro, no explanation, just the hypnosis and completely ad-free, there will be a link in the description where you can subscribe at a very low cost and only get access to the hypnosis. So if that's of interest, please check that out. Thank you again for being a regular listener of The Hypnotist, and I'll see you again soon for more.